Again, I want to welcome you. This is Patrick Dean, and I am the founder and president of Seminar Systems. It's a consulting company that does leadership and team building training and relationship training and coaching all around the world. Do it by webinar, and we do live trainings as well. So, welcome this evening. And this evening, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about relationship. I've had several people, actually, a number of people asked me to talk about relationship. I've been talking about business, and I've been talking about health, and I've been talking about abundance, and really planning and moving forward and coaching and working with you guys on this stuff. But tonight I want to talk about relationship. And so I had a picture there of my lovely wife, Nancy, just to prove that I have been in and am in relationship. We've been together 33 years and have worked together for almost that whole time, and been involved in leadership and team building training and teen classes and all kinds of other stuff together, and also lived together and raised our son together, and all of the other stuff that all the other stuff that's great and incredible and also challenging about relationship. So tonight, the purpose of what I want to talk with you about, the purpose of tonight is for you to create more intimacy and trust and energy in your relationships. And I'm going to have a specific tool for you to do that with. So I'm going to I'm going to jump into that in a second. So if you are listening for something specific or some actions to take to create from an ordinary to an extraordinary relationship, I'm going to have them here for you. So let's jump in and get to work on this and do this. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to do some qualifying of those of you that are on this Facebook Live. And the qualifications go this way. I'm going to ask you some questions and see if you're in the right place. So number one, I would like to ask you whether do you feel that your relationship could get better? There could be improvements in your relationship. Now, that sounds like a crazy and silly and stupid question to ask, but honestly, in my career of working with over 30,000 people, I have met many people in relationship who don't want to change it at all, don't want anything different, don't want to be challenged around it, and they want it exactly the same. They don't want to rock the boat in any way. And if you're one of those people, God bless you. But this is not the Facebook Live for you. I suggest that you get back on television, or watch roller derby or whatever, go out and polish the car. All that's great, but this Facebook Live is going to be for those of you who, even if you have a number 10 out of 10 relationship, it's awesome, it's wonderful, that you think that you can take it to a 100. Or if you're at a 3 or a 4 on a scale of 0 to 10, 8, anywhere in there, if you feel that you'd like to jump that number up, that you're always working and learning from a relationship, you are in the right place. So that's one of the qualifiers. The second one is do you, as a way of being, as a philosophy in your life, believe that you are responsible for the quality of your life, that other people aren't responsible for the quality of your life, that you are responsible for the quality of your life? And if you believe that, or at least on that path, you're in the right place here as well. So you're not a person that's driven or makes all your decisions or driven by circumstance and chance out there, that you think that stuff just happens to you, that you're a contributor to the quality of your relationships and to the quality of your life. Then you're in the right place for this Facebook Live. So there's the second one. And the third one is for tonight, would you be willing to look at your story? Now, when I'm talking about story is I'm talking about this whole experience we've had in life that we put together as a story that explains life to us, explains what's possible and not possible in our life. So my theory here is that everybody has a life story, and it's not always conscious, but it is something that has a powerful influence on us. So if you're one of those people that have that you can look at this story and go, okay, how does this story contribute to great relationships, and how might it take away? And you're willing and curious to learn about that from your own story, then you are in the right place as well. So if you are in the right place, let's jump in and start in on this. So I saw some statistics the other day that said that in intimate and committed relationships, let's say marriages, that the divorce rate in the United States is about 42%. Now, people quote 50%, but actually I did some research and it's about 42% of all marriages fail or dissolve within 5 years. And I think in my being with people and searching in myself as well, looking around, I think I have an idea for you about why that's so. And then we can talk about maybe improving that statistic or improving our chances of being in an intimate and loving and trusting relationship. So if you're willing to be around that, I think that we can jump in here. So I'll tell you a story, and this is a story about a leadership and team building and relationship training that I was doing, and I believe this one was in it was in the Malaysia, and we were doing this training in Malaysia. There was 100 people in the room, and everybody there. It was a 5-day long training, and it was about stepping forward in life. It was about creation of dreams. It was about success in life. It was about letting go of past experiences. So you can imagine it was emotional and it was powerful. And about the third day, there was a gentleman sharing in the room, coming from absolute authenticity and honesty, when he was talking about one of the dreams of his life. And what he was talking about is the dream of his life was to have a committed, long-term, intimate partnership, relationship that supported him, and that this is one of the dreams that he had. So he was talking about the fact that he'd never been able to sustain a relationship with a woman for over 3 months. That was about the longest they ever lasted. So in conversation with him and in exploration with him, I asked him about what was his past, where was his past, what was the relationship from his past. And this is what he said. He said that in a very early relationship in his life, he was really in love. And I think most of us have had that experience when we were very young and we've had our first love. And he was really in love. And according to him, that this woman that he was in love with betrayed him. And the pain was so great that he decided at some level, a subjective level, that he didn't want to have that experience anymore, which is a pretty logical way to go about protecting yourself. And so he made a decision. Now, his decision was women can't be trusted. He was actually able to bring that as we were in this conversation. He hadn't realized it totally before, but he brought that conscious, that he was running from a great, like a program or belief system that really touched him at a deep level about women can't be trusted. And so here he was operating from this deep program and belief system. And what was occurring was he was cutting off these relationships before they even got started, because he expected at some level to be betrayed. At some level, something was going to happen. And often he would cut off the relationships even before they got going, because that was what was a driving subconscious force for him. Okay, a lot of this stuff, a lot of this story we're talking about, as I said earlier, is really subconscious. Here's a product placement, by the way. Seminar Systems. That's my company, and we're about coaching and mentoring as well. So there you go. I'm always told to market. So anyway, we were in conversation, and there was this realizations going on about how he sabotaged his relationships because of his past experience. And not only that, here's an interesting thing about past experiences that I think you may relate to. He would find other people or other men who had had somewhat similar experiences. They'd get together and they would talk, and they would all go, women can't be trusted. Yeah, well, there's your experience and there's my experience and all of that. And from that selective experience, he had plenty of evidence why women can't be trusted. I mean, it sounded reasonable and logical. Now, the one thing he didn't have was a relationship that he wanted. And through this realization and through becoming more conscious about what was driving him, he was able to make a different choice. And finally, when I saw him staffing a class a year later, he was engaged and he was very happy, and he'd had a breakthrough in his story. Now, we all have a story that we're working with, and it's probably a bit different than that one if you're in a relationship, but there's always stuff going on. So what do I mean by story? And once we talk about this story, then I'm going to get to this method that I told you, this exercise I want to teach you about having more intimacy in a relationship. But I want to talk about the last thing about this story action that we have going on in our life is the story of the missing piece. And this is what I've written on extensively. By the way, what I'm talking about tonight is in my book called The Journey. And I'll tell you how you can get a hold of one of these copies here at the end. And it's from our writing. So I was writing about what's called the missing piece. And when we are growing up, there's a lot of stuff that happens, no matter how great our childhood was or how dismal or horrendous our childhood was or difficult our childhood, challenging our childhood was. Growing up with or without parents or with people in our lives that we took our relationship cues from, there was, for most of us, there was something that was always kind of missing from our experience as we grew up. So if you will just take a moment and ask yourself, looking at the relationship with our mother and father, what might have been missing? Maybe for you, it was some physical intimacy like hugging or touching. For a lot of people, they didn't get very much recognition, or for some people, they didn't get a lot of care and acknowledgement. Some people grew up kind of under the radar. Some people felt like they were missing someone that saw who they were and their individuality. Some of us learned very early on to be more defensive around stuff and in protection. And what was missing was calmness and care in our lives. But most of us have some of the things in our life that we would like more of that seem like to be a missing piece. Now, how does this have to do with relationship and intimacy? Well, and this divorce rate or troubles in relationship. And here's what I think is occurring. I think that we often choose people in our life that supply what we think is missing. That we will meet someone and we will go, wow, finally I'm admired or appreciated. This person admires and appreciates us and fulfills something in our life that we felt was missing. And so what happens is we get into relationship with this person. We fall in love. We choose them as a partner because I certainly feel good around them. I feel like I'm being recognized. I feel like I'm being acknowledged, something I've always wanted in my life. Now, as I say this, maybe some of you can relate to this kind of, it's not really conscious, but it's a powerful motivator. And if you start to bring it to consciousness, like we're talking about it right now, thinking, okay, I've looked for this in my life. Now, there's nothing wrong with looking for acknowledgement or appreciation or love or intimacies. That's just, as human beings, we appreciate that and want that in our life. But what I'm talking about is something at a deeper level that we feel that it's missing within ourselves. So we choose a partner, right? And so we choose this partner, and this partner is going to supply that, as I said. Then what happens is, after a while, no matter how great a partner you have found, they cannot continually shovel something into you, like shoveling coal into a stove. They cannot keep going. They can't shovel enough love, intimacy. They can't shovel enough courage or self-confidence into that stove because they get worn out. And so I think what happens is in a lot of relationships, we get worn out trying to supply something that's missing in the other person. Now, of course, the answer to this one is to do personal development work on yourself. Easy enough to say, but it takes tremendous courage to identify what you're missing and look at supplying it for yourself. Then what you bring to a relationship is something that's more whole and that's more powerful and that's more, you're more able to give and receive when you do this work on yourself. To stay unconscious about what's motivating you or stay unconscious about relationship, turns out that relationships end up in big arguments because eventually, if you are not giving it to me, if you're not shoveling in this coal, this courage, this honor, this caring, this love, this intimacy at the rate that I want it, I will eventually say, well, you're not keeping your part of the bargain. You're not making me feel good anymore. And I think that this is why people separate, is because you're not making me feel good anymore, where it's in actuality, it's our responsibility to do this. And then we'll go on and search for the next person to fulfill something that's missing. And so what we want to do here is, and I cannot, on this Facebook live podcast, I can't get into any kind of depth. That's what I am doing coaching and mentoring with couples for. So I not only work with business owners and I work with people that are working in all different areas of their life to create extraordinary results, but I'm working with some couples who want to have a partnership that's in alignment on their purpose and their goals and their vision. And without doing this work in yourself, you're going to have a tough time, or it's going to take a lot longer, and you're going to go through a lot of ups and downs in relationship. So, given all that, let's talk about a tool that you can use and start in. So I recommend that you do this almost immediately, or put this into action. And this is from the chapter in my book, like I said, The Journey, and this is chapter 8, and it's called the Radical Honesty Interview. The Radical Honesty Interview. It doesn't really flow off the tongue, but I think it explains it, and I'll get to that. So here's what you can do to up the intimacy and trust and care in your relationship. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to work on this this way. The intimacy interview works this way. Number one, set aside a time for just you and the other person to talk. Make an agreement when you go into this conversation that you're not going to talk about problems or family business, but this is only about exploring the experience with each other. Establish a place and a time. In other words, for your interview with each other, find a place where you're not going to be interrupted, and find a place where you can spend an hour or more in uninterrupted time. Now, if you're saying to me, I cannot, the way my life is, I can't find an hour of uninterrupted time, then you're going to have a problem in your relationships. Because not only do you have to give your commitment to your kids, to your job, and to your work, but I think relationship takes some work and attendance like everything else. I think that we take it for granted. A lot of us are going, it'll do relationship. I don't really want to do this. I don't want to spend the time in conversation. We're just kind of going every direction. Most relationships get in trouble because of that. So you've got to spend some time like you would on anything else that you want to get good at. So establish a time, establish a place, and turn off your electronics. And then what you want to do is you want to take a look at the removal of judgment on your partner. So when you're in this conversation, I'm going to give you some questions that you ask your partner, and your partner is going to ask you. And when they're answering these questions, this is not the time where you jump in and you get into your critical self or your correction self or your voice back to them, and you let your bunch of your history show up, and then you get into some kind of wrestling match about who's going to be right. This is not that. This is the place where you actually listen to the other person. So that means that you remove some of the energy from your judgments and the need to be right and all that, and just be there to listen to the other person. This is one of the more challenging parts of this exercise, the radical honesty interview. But you're going to find this so valuable if you can start to shut down a little bit of that. Now, once you've found a place and you're determined that you're going to create a great experience with this, I'm going to talk about how this works. So what you're going to do here is you're going to ask some questions. All right. Now, these are in my book, and I'll also post these on Facebook, Seminar Systems Facebook, and get in there and like that if you would, if you haven't. And so that's where I'm going to post a lot of videos and other stuff, Seminar Systems. My personal Facebook is full, but you can check it there as well. You're probably on that one, and I'll put it in both places. But I'd love you to like Seminar Systems, and that's where I'm going to put a lot of information. Back to, and we're going to start to wrap it up here as far as this conversation goes, but I want to get to the real exciting stuff here. So here are the questions that you ask your partner. Number one, what in this relationship is most challenging for you? And when you ask that question, remember about your reaction. You may have a reaction to what they're saying, or you may have, maybe this is the first time you've actually sat down and had an intimate conversation. So there's going to be some reactions around stuff, and this is not the time you jump in or you start to get into some kind of, like I said, back and forth on this. Next, when do you feel closest in the relationship? You really want to know when your partner feels closest to you. You may be surprised. Nancy and I were talking about that, and I said, okay, I feel closest to you when we spend time together just doing stuff together away from the business. And she said, I feel closest to you when you're doing acts of service or you're helping and you're doing something. Now, this goes along with a lot of writing that people have done about the ways that we feel, the best way we feel intimate, but you really want to listen to your partner. Next, when do you feel the most distance in relationship? And really listen to the answer to that one. Here's an interesting one. What would you like to have more of in our relationship? And sometimes your partner may go, well, geez, I haven't thought about it, or I don't know, or give them time to think about that. The next one, what at times do you withhold in our relationship? What do you withhold in our relationship? And listen to that, because that's a vulnerable question. When do you feel the most loved in our relationship? And listen to that. And then, what are you willing to change about yourself to make this relationship better? You're asking the other person. If you guys are at an 8, awesome relationship, but you want to get to 10, what is it you're willing to change about you? And what would the other person be willing to change to make the relationship better? What is a dream that you have in your life that you haven't fulfilled? Now, this one right here, so critical to listen to the answer, because it may not be your dream. It may be the other person's dream. My wife, Nancy, she had a dream that she wanted to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. My first reaction in our relationship was, well, hell no, you're not going to do that. I don't want you going to a foreign country. I don't want you going to Africa. I don't want you to go to a place where I'm not there and I'm not around and to protect you or whatever. So all of my scarcity stuff came up around our relationship. And then I had to ask myself, just in this very question, what dream in your life have you not fulfilled? And that was climbing that mountain for her. And who am I to stand in front or block her from her dream? And so what I did was I shifted completely and helped her do that, find the safest company. I participated because I was doing trainings and I was not going to do that. It wasn't my dream. But I participated in so many ways in helping her get to the top of that mountain, which she did and fulfilled her dream. And the idea that all of our dreams have to be like the other person's or we have to do it together, I don't think that's always necessarily so. There are many that you can do together, but find out what's important to that person. Maybe they've always wanted to do something and you want to know what that is, because one of the greatest things about relationship is seeing your partner succeed and live their dreams. Again, and that goes with the question, how can I support you fulfilling your dreams? And then finally, the question, what does our ideal life look like together? And listen to the answer to that. And then what's going to happen is your partner is going to ask you these questions and they're going to listen to you. And when you are done, then spend some time afterwards talking about what you have learned and discovered about the other person. I don't care how much we live together or how much we think we know another person. If we don't stop and really listen and ask some questions, you may find out some amazing things about a partner that you've been with a long time. And if you're just starting relationship, these are amazing questions to get in alignment about. So this is called the Radical Honesty Interview. This is an exercise, a way of tuning up, of resetting, if you've been together a long time, resetting your relationship or discovering about each other. And know that the story is going to come up and all that kind of stuff. But what you can do in this Radical Honesty Interview is move through that and have a greater, more compassionate understanding. So That's all I wanted to share with you tonight, because I believe that a great relationship is one of the most extraordinary things that we can live with. And you don't need to have a marriage to have an extraordinary relationship. Maybe you have an extraordinary relationship with just friends or other people or with the work that you're doing. There's many ways to be fed, but I think one of the great ways is to have and to look for and to nurture your intimate relationship. So that's it for tonight. We're done. And I do want to tell you or ask you if you would like Seminar Systems on Facebook. That would be great. Now, another thing is there is patrickdeancoaching.com, patrickdeancoaching.com. And if you put / uh, uh, special on that, Patrick Dean Coaching / special, it's going to take you to a page where you can get a book that I'm giving away about career. And I will look in there, and I will send you information about this book, The Journey, and where you can pick that up. The Journey is a download. It's $15. But if you can't afford $15, I want you to email me or message me on Facebook here. And if you can't afford it, I'm going to send it to you anyway. $15 for the download. For those of you that can afford it, I'll send you The Journey. And if you can't afford it, I don't want you to miss out on it. So I'll send you a free copy. Whatever, just let me know. Anyway, have a great evening. It's awesome talking with you. And next Wednesday, we're going to do more work on personal development. And we're going to talk about some surprising things about career and abundance. So I'll look forward to talking with you then. Have a great rest of the week. Love all you guys. And we'll see you again on Facebook Live, if not in some live trainings that we have all over the place. So again, good night. Thank you.